Black woman. Beautiful, powerful, resilient female of African descent with skin kissed by the sun. Conversation. A talk, especially an informal one between two or more people in which news and ideas are exchanged. We love being black women. Black women are ambitious. Black women are confident. Black women are diligent. We are tenacious. We walk out of our houses put together. We are many shades and personalities of fabulous. But we as black women don't talk about our dilemmas, current events, and what's going on every day that affects us. So, we created this podcast as a way to laugh together, cry together, and have an open conversation about life as black women.
Oh, that's deep. Black Women Conversations.
Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Johnny.
How's your week been?
It's been pretty good. So my office manager left, Thursday was her last day. And so she left to go to basically our sister company. So we're going to really miss her. And I kept saying, why did you leave before I had to leave? Like, dang, you couldn't give me like one extra month? And she was like, girl, these people, I got offered a better job. I countered, asked for more money. They didn't give me more money, so I had to bounce. And I completely get it. Like sometimes you have to do the best thing for your family and the best thing for your own career growth. And if you're at a company that's trying to stunt that growth, then I get it. You have to move on and go somewhere that you feel you are supported to advance. So I'm really happy for her. So I wish her best of luck. But other than the routine stuff, I'm starting to pack my stuff in my office because I'm trying not to wait to the very last minute to move all my stuff out the day of. So my goal is to have all my stuff out of the office within the first 7 days of June. So the first week of June for me is going to be crucial because I go out the 9th through the 15th to go to the American Medical Association conference. And then I get back on the 16th. Well, then I only have, 2 weeks before I go. And I want the last 2 weeks to be sort of laid back, drama free. I've tied up all loose ends. I've signed everything I need to sign. Everything's completed in terms of billing so that I can walk away, free, if you will. Now, I was supposed to have an induction for delivery on Friday. And the induction was at this hospital, and I won't name them, but they're infamous for being understaffed. They're like the largest delivering hospital in all of Texas, but they don't have enough nursing staff. So my patient was scheduled to be induced on Friday because of her comorbidities. We're recording on a Sunday, and literally maybe 35 minutes ago, she was just called to go to the hospital. So now I'm going to have to spend all night wondering how far dilated she is, calling up to check on her, going in when she gets there in another hour and a half because she lives 2 hours from the hospital to check her in, and probably delivering on Memorial Day, which is my day off. And I'm off all weekend. So I'm sort of kind of pissed because I can't even plan my days off because the hospital can't get its stuff together. I'm so glad that this will be the last time I'm delivering at that particular hospital because I don't have time for, your patient's going to need to be induced on Friday, your off day. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I can come back in. Oh no, Saturday. We were going to call her Saturday. So I wait around all day Saturday. Oh, Sunday, really? I can't even arrange childcare like that. Granny Lisa gone, out and about. And my patient's just getting called in. I'm telling you, just cat ragged hospital systems.
I'm sure she's probably annoyed too, because if I thought that I was going to give birth on Friday and it's now Sunday and I'm just now getting around to it, I would be so annoyed.
Oh, she is annoyed, which means that she's calling me every 2 hours, asking me for updates. And I'm like, I'm not the hospital. I don't work in that hospital. I barely deliver in that hospital because that hospital is 48 minutes from my home. So it's already going to take me an hour to get there. I'm a little annoyed, but that's okay. I mean, the patient will deliver tomorrow, probably sometime tomorrow anyway. If she gets a room, they're like, you just keep you downstairs until you get a room. Really? But hopefully she will get a room in time to be delivered tomorrow. And we'll move on from there. I mean, if she gets postponed until Monday or Tuesday, I won't be able to deliver. So if you're listening, this is how sometimes your doctor is not able to deliver you. When the hospital throws your induction date off and you have clinic on the other side of town, but you are supposed to be scheduled to be delivered like 4 days before, that's how. Don't blame your doctor. Blame the hospital system, okay? Because they're screwing us over. And the patient has, medical problems, a lot of them. No, I'm telling you, this is a mess. It's a mess. How was your week, Janine?
It was good. It was what I call the calm before the storm. So I have a ton of events that are coming up, and I keep telling myself, like, we're going to get to the point where it just rolls like clockwork. So it was good. It was a good week. No issues over here. I have no complaints. Things are going well.
But Janine, you always are just such a master planner. The calm before the storm. When the storm gets there, you're like, I already got it all handled. This person's doing that. This person's doing that. I got it all under control. So it's not really a storm. It's more like a breeze. Just a breeze, right?
From your lips to God's ears. I wish I was that calm all the time, but there are times where I'm like, oh my goodness, why didn't I think of this? The further I get into my career, the fewer and far between they become. However, there are times where I'm like, uh-oh. Well, let me tell you this. It's really funny. So one of my coworkers said to me the other day, she works in my department, and she said, oh my goodness, Janine, I realized that, the clients have to order the things that they would need for their event. And the client didn't order tablecloths. And she said that she thought to herself, I had better figure this out before, even though it wasn't her fault. It was 100% on the client, right? She was like, I had better figure this out before Janine gets here, because if Janine gets here and there are no tablecloths, she's going to say, well, did you ask the client if they needed tablecloths? Which I probably would have. So thinking quick on her feet, she was like, where can I get tablecloths at 7:00 in the morning when nothing is open? So she went to our catering arm of our business and said, hey, is it possible that you have some additional tablecloths? And guess what? Voila, they did. And everything was fixed before Janine arrived. See how easy that is? It's like there are problems, but I don't expect that there won't be issues. I expect that when issues arise, we'll have solutions for them.
Oh, yes. When your team knows your expectations and how you operate, it just makes things so much smoother. That's why I'm like dreading almost starting a new job, because then you have to literally connect again with your team, right? You have to anticipate how your team operates. Your team has to anticipate you and how you operate as well. And so you're almost like literally having to start all over again. Even if I'm going to a brand new place and I'm hiring people that I feel mesh well with me, you don't know if you really mesh well until you're actually working on something together. So yeah, I'm glad that you got your team right. Okay. The team says we are the A team.
They are. I love them. They're all super amazing. Like, I have no complaints. I'm sure that they're probably ready to wring my neck probably 90% of the time. But the one thing that I think that my team can say, and I would hope that anyone that's worked with me before can say this, is that they have learned and they've grown in their career, and they have more knowledge and understanding of the business when they moved on past the time of us working together than they did when we started. And I always try to lead in a manner that if I were to walk out today or tomorrow, that any of my employees can step in and do exactly what I do to the same standard, if not a higher standard than what I do. So hopefully that's what they can say about me. But I love my team. They're awesome.
All right. So Janine, what's on your timeline this week?
Let me fill the listeners in really quickly. So Nicole and I found this out a couple days ago, right? And Nicole and I have been kind of doing research and looking into the story and trying to find, we've done all that we can to find something to dispute this story. We haven't come up with it though. So I will say this, shout out to Stephanie on TikTok, because Stephanie broke this thing down in a manner in which I don't know that we could be talking about this if it wasn't for Stephanie. So shout out to Stephanie on TikTok at Stephanie Hall. So once you all finish this episode, feel free to head on over to TikTok and watch this whole story. So let me start. Cora Jakes Coleman is on our timeline. So for those who may not know who Cora is, she is the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes. So this story is super complicated. And by super, I mean, that is the probably biggest understatement that I will make this entire episode. but it's complicated and it's convoluted. So try to follow me here. And if you fall off, I'll try to get you caught back up in a couple of minutes. So this story has a lot of characters. I'm going to start by outlining who all the characters are here. So we have Cora. Cora is the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes, pastor of the Potter's House in Texas. We have her husband, Brandon Coleman. Then there is a young lady named Michelle. And then there is a baby named Jason. There are more characters to the story, but I'm not going to go that deep into this. You can feel free to watch Stephanie's TikTok. She will go super deep. We will leave those characters be. We're just going to stick with these 4 characters at the moment. So as I've outlined, the characters, Cora, her husband, random lady named Michelle, and there's the baby named Jason. If you had to make an assumption based on the information that I've given you, the logical assumption, if I'm telling you that this is a complicated, convoluted story, is that Cora's husband, Brandon, had an affair with Michelle and subsequently fathered a son named Jason. That's what you would assume. That's what I would have assumed, but that is not the case. So let me tell you that this story is so unbelievable that the story that I just told you is likely more believable. The affair story, is likely more believable than what I'm about to tell you. Michelle has recently gone on social media, both Facebook and Instagram. Those are the ones that I found, to come out and share her story. So Michelle seems to be a cosmetologist of sorts based on her Instagram page. And she is currently either having just recently gotten out of a custody battle or is still currently going through a custody battle with Cora Drakes Coleman. Now, remember I told you that her husband did not have an affair with this woman, at least to our knowledge, to create baby Jason. Now, you'll see later on in the story that having an affair with a grown woman, probably not Cora's husband's vibe, but I'll talk about that later. So why the custody battle? If that's not her stepson, her husband didn't father this child, why are we having a custody battle? Well, Michelle says that when she was pregnant with Jason, she already had 3 children. She was leaving a long-term relationship that was a bad relationship for her, and she was facing homelessness. I don't know whether they were friends. I don't know whether they were acquaintances. Potter's House pretty big. Who knows? So Michelle claims that they got reacquainted with one another, and Cora said that she would help Michelle because Michelle was pregnant with her 4th child. And honestly, she was pretty young and she was leaving a relationship, facing homelessness. She needed help. Makes sense. Well, Michelle says that Cora didn't really help her. She set her up. She claims that Cora was not actually there to help at all, but rather to take her child. So let's go back. Again, this is Michelle's child with someone other than anyone in Cora's family. And Michelle is alleging that Cora tried to help or disguised intentions to steal her child by saying that she was going to help her. It seems like this is a super wild accusation. But as I said, Nicole and I have looked through this and we have not found any disputes to this accusation. And Cora's not really helping the situation any, because if you scroll through her social media timeline, there are numerous posts, even a very recent one, which I will mention later, of pictures and videos of baby Jason. If you keep scrolling, you can find pictures all the way back to 2014. And that seems to be the year that baby Jason was born. So Michelle claims that Cora and her husband did everything that they could to take her child. She didn't have her son for her. I'm assuming they were somehow trying to say spiritually that she had her son so that someone else could become a mother. I don't know, but that's what Michelle said. She also says that they even told her that if she didn't give her son to them, that they would take him from her. So Michelle said that there was a time, where she was suffering from what she now knows to be postpartum depression, but she had 3 other children and hadn't experienced this before. So in her mind, she didn't know what was going on, but now she knows she was depressed. She was going through some things, and baby number 4 she had postpartum depression. She said that Cora preyed on the fact that she had postpartum depression. She said that she even attempted to, quote unquote, counsel Michelle, and they would do, I'm assuming, Zoom video chat. But basically, Michelle said that she did a counseling session virtually. And it seems that Cora probably recorded the session because Michelle said that she proceeded to use that same counseling session or the information gathered from that counseling session in court against Michelle when Michelle was fighting for custody of her son. Now, if you were shocked and trying to understand this whole thing and what's going on here, so was I. So let me recap for you really quickly. Michelle is claiming that Cora Jakes Coleman, daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes, and her husband, Brandon Coleman, manipulated her and essentially coerced her into allowing them to, quote unquote, adopt their son, Jason, or her son, Jason. Now, this has been in court for years. And Michelle has been sharing her story for a while now. You wonder why we're hearing about it now? Let me say this first. Michelle's story has been shared to her 2,600 followers, which pales in comparison to the 277,000 followers that Cora Jakes Coleman has. I would assume that Cora would have access to a lot more financial means than Michelle would. You would think this is why it came out, because baby Jason had an 8th birthday. How do I know? Because Cora made a post saying, "Happy birthday, son," just a week ago, right? But that's not why this story came out. This all surfaced because Cora's now seemingly ex-husband or soon-to-be ex-husband recently got booked on charges of child sexual assault. Now, these are not his first set of charges. The previous charges don't seem to be for this same thing, but he has, if you look him up, a list of charges that he has been charged for in the past, right? But that's not what we're talking about. So let me get back to the story. Now, baby Jason isn't the first child that Cora, quote unquote, adopted. She has an older daughter that she also adopted. Now, I'm not going into, the whole court case because honestly, with this particular situation, I feel like we just need to allow the judicial system to do exactly what it's supposed to do. And we just got to trust it because this is so complicated and convoluted. I can't even begin to imagine. But I will say this. Cora has discussed infertility on social media for years. But somewhere in these court proceedings, she has now disputed the fact that she's infertile. Now, of course, I can't be certain, but it seems that this alleged infertility might have sparked Cora's infatuation with children. Now, you might think it's a little bit far-fetched for me to say infatuation, right? But let's go back to this recap again. We don't know where she got her daughter from. She allegedly took baby Jason. And just recently, she made a post that said that her best friend was giving her the greatest gift ever as she was going through these difficult times. And voila, we have baby Ruby, which none of these children are biologically hers, which doesn't make them any less her children if she had adopted them. But we can't find any adoption records for these kids, which creates a number of questions. First of all, where are these kids coming from? Like, how did you get the kids? And then how did you convince and or go through the adoption process if we can't find records? Maybe they were closed adoptions. I digress. So it creates a lot of questions. So it tells me in my mind that the seemingly perfect pastor's family and Cora's seemingly perfect nuclear family might not be so perfect after all. Things don't seem to be at all what they appear. Cora seems to be infatuated with other people's children, and her husband, Brandon, seems to have a hard time keeping his hands off of other people's children. So I don't know if these allegations are true, because I can't prove them, but it goes to teach us that everyone that says that they're out for your good or they're there to help you doesn't always have your interest at heart. I'm not even going to say best interest. I'm just going to say your interest at heart. It seems that in this particular situation, the interest is of Cora and her husband to accumulate babies. Sounds really absurd, but that's seemingly what it is. So I will say this. Neither Cora nor her husband should probably be in charge of the youth ministry. But I will also say that when you go look her up, she did found and seems to be the director of the youth ministry at Potter's House. Nicole, this sounds like an episode of Greenleaf, and I honestly believe that if the writers had written this into Greenleaf, I would have said, that's not believable. It's just that crazy. How did you feel about this, Nicole? What did you think?
Well, my feelings on the situation with Cora's husband, I feel like I don't know enough about those allegations to really speak on it. I know that he has some charges that deal with, child molestation. I don't know if some social media also says something about child pornography. I don't know if those are to be true, but I know that if you have any type of charges that deal with anything sexual dealing with minors, you don't need to be around anybody's children, including your own. If they were your own, you would not need to be around them. So I definitely feel like, he is somebody that's not to be trusted. Now, I know that either they got divorced or they're going through divorce, and I'm pretty sure this had a lot to do with it, the charges, because who would want to be married to somebody that's a child molester? Not me. And if you are molesting the children that are in my home that I have been entrusted to take care of, then you definitely can't be around me. You got to go, right? So all I'm thinking about is the children, okay? So the husband, he got to go. I'm glad Cora got rid of it. On to the Michelle Loud and Cora story. The issue I have with the Michelle Loud story is that it just came out, right? Like literally maybe 2 weeks ago, May 18th is when she started posting about getting her child back. That was not when the charges dropped on her husband, and it's not when Cora announced that she was divorcing her husband. So I don't know what sparked her to come out and say she wanted her child back all of a sudden. Her child is, over age 8, because the post that she shared was when he turned 8. And I don't know if that was this year or the year before, but it's been a long time. And I'm wondering, why is she all of a sudden coming out? What is the motivation? Is it that you don't think your child is safe in that home or not? Like, say what the motivation is. So I have more questions for Michelle than sympathy here. Okay. Because I'm sitting there thinking about me and anybody that I have as a patient who has postpartum depression. You have to go through psychological screening to sign paperwork to give your child away. The adoption process takes a while. Cora did not legally adopt this child until the child was almost a year. So in that year, what happened? So is it that she was initially agreeing that she was not fit enough and that somebody should take over childcare? I mean, what happened in the year process? Because I'm sure she was asked several times, was she sure that she wanted to give her child up for adoption? And even after you sign over your rights, you have a certain window of time to say, psych, I changed my mind. Okay, that's why a lot of people get so frustrated with the adoption system, because parents can renege and change their minds. But looking at her social media, she posted, even the post about the 8-year birthday, she said, this is the last time I saw you. And this is 6 years of me not spending any birthdays with you. But this baby wasn't 2 years old. Okay, this baby in this picture was more like 6 years old. And they look very happy. And she didn't say nothing about getting them back then. Okay. And all the rest of her posts about her being a hairstylist or twerking or making that money or, dropping it like it's hot, posing and stunting in front of cars. So what is the motivation now? And if you have postpartum depression with this child and that's how you were bamboozled into signing over your rights, what happened to the other children? Were you fit enough to continue to care for those other children? Or did those other children go to other families during this time? There's so many things that we don't know. She said she spent a stint of time in jail. Why did she go to jail? was it that her child was going to be in the system anyway? And she was like, okay, this is the better option is to give my child to Cora. So at least I know that he's raised by somebody with means in the church while I go to jail instead of having my child go into the system. There's too many unanswered questions. Where was the rest of the family when all this stuff was happening, when she was getting cursed? Where the baby daddies at? Where they at? Okay. Do they not care? Are they not in any of the children's lives? Okay. What happened there? And if you went and visited the son, did you see anything? Did you say that you wanted him back then? Okay. Why just now? You gave the child up in 2014 and now it's 2022. I'm having some difficulty with this. Okay. It seems motivated by something and I don't know what it is. And I'm not saying that she's wrong all of a sudden to want her child back. I think people do go through the guilt. Maybe she's in a better place financially. Maybe she's in a better headspace mentally. But if you're in a better headspace now, is it possible that you did have a conversation with Cora and say, hey, I'm okay with you taking over childcare? Hold on, let me see if they're back so I can let her out. So I say that because is it possible that if she wasn't in a good place then, that she really could have told her, I can't take care of this child. And then it had been this many years that she felt like she really couldn't take care of this child. Because now she's making herself out to be the total victim when you had to know that she adopted your child. You went and visited him. And then you went to jail for something. So tell me what's going on there. You know, the thing that hits me, because I've been watched all this and looked at all these videos, is she's crying and saying, it wasn't fair. You know, they paid the lawyers off. I was defending myself. And then she said, they paid my lawyer off. Well, did you defend yourself or did they pay your lawyer off? Which one is it? Then she said, well, I had to produce my health records. She didn't have to produce her health records. Well, she's had custody of the child for this long. You're the one petitioning to be in the child's life again. You're the one petitioning for custody. So yeah, they're going to ask you to submit your pay stubs. They're going to ask you to submit all of your records because they're going to move a child from somewhere that they think is stable. And I say that in quotes because of the whole husband's allegation, but at the time that we thought was stable. So to move a child from a stable environment to an unstable environment with somebody that has potentially a record and has some mental instability by your own admission, of course they're going to ask for that. Of course. I mean, they don't have to ask, of course, because she's had care of the child. So I think that the story is getting skewed. The other piece is, they said, oh, well, all of a sudden she's preying on, baby Ruby. And Stephanie Hall talks about, she's going to steal another baby. Well, she says this is her friend's child and her friend is giving her a godchild. And this same friend has been on a lot of posts for a long time. So I think we're taking bits and pieces and shaping the story and not developing all the players in the story. So I feel like it leaves more questions than answers. And so I don't want to jump to conclusion because there's a lot of things we don't know about Michelle. The things that are definite are about Brandon. Okay. We're not definite about Cora's state of mind. We don't know if she had some mild depression at one time. We don't know if she had a suicide attempt at one time. We don't know. We don't know if she's bipolar, schizophrenic. We don't know. Okay. Those videos left us with a whole bunch of what if. What we do know is that her husband has some charges. Okay. That is fact. We don't know nothing about Michelle. We know only what she's told us. And so I am asking all these questions and saying stuff don't add up just based off of what Michelle is saying. So I'm sorry. I can't feel 100% sorry for her before I know more details around what those conversations were like and what her background was and what happened to those other kids while she said that she was not able to take care of her child before.
Okay, Nicole. So I agree with you. So there are a lot of questions here, a lot. But I would like to say this. As far as I know, and based on the information that I've been given from my mother being a foster mother for years, the goal is always to reunite the child with their biological parents when at all possible, right? So I do feel sorry for her in that. Like, it seems that she might have had a rocky past, and it seems that she is either in the process of getting her life together or has gotten her life together, as much as anyone could get their life together, right? So I do feel for her in that sense. And I also feel for her in the sense that if I gave birth to a child and didn't necessarily want to give it up for adoption and felt like I was coerced into giving it up for adoption, I would feel some kind of way. And it appears, and I'm not trying to say that Michelle is not, as smart as Cora is, but it appears that there might have been some legal loopholes that were used here to get this child, because it doesn't necessarily appear that there are any adoption records of any sort. However, we will say this. There are closed adoptions where we wouldn't necessarily be able to see adoption records, and that could very well be the case. However, there's always going to be a part in my heart that says, if a mother still wants their child, no matter how wrong they may be, you have to feel for them, because as much as they want to get themselves together, they might not necessarily be able to. The other part of my heart goes to her because it seems that the person that she gave her child to might be dealing with some mental health issues of her own. Now, I didn't get as deep into it as Stephanie does, but Stephanie pulled up some records where she did a stint at a mental health facility in California. So, not saying that if you have a stint in a mental health facility doesn't mean that you should have a child. But what I'm saying is, at this point, it seems we're weighing 6 of one and half dozen of the other. We have a mother who clearly suffered with postpartum depression and also did a stint in jail, and then a mother and a father that clearly suffered with some sort of mental health struggle. And the husband also did a stint in jail for something that seemingly would make him not a good candidate to be a adoptive father or a father at all, to be very honest with you. Not to mention, those are not the only charges that he has. He has some more violent charges from the past. It just seems that he does not need to be a father. Now, him aside, if they're now divorced, it seems like Cora would be the reasonable solution to this. She's the most stable, it seems. She's the one that has another child and has the home that the child has been raised in. But this is one of those situations, Nicole, where is anyone really thinking about this child? Because on this side of the story is a potentially mentally unstable mother and a father who is potentially an assaulter. And on this side of the story is a potentially mentally unstable mother who did a stint in jail. So is there a good solution for baby Jason here? Because that's the question that I'm really asking. Like, where does baby Jason go without any harm or potential harm?
Well, I'll say this. Michelle's video did bring up that she did a stint in California. It did not say that it was in some type of rehab or mental institution. Okay.
It was.
She assumed that it was. But let me say this. That was still years and years and years before baby Jason came into the picture. Right. So, one, I think that people, just like this person can be rehabilitated back into society from jail, I think Anne can be rehabilitated from her postpartum depression and long-term depression, since adoption took, basically over a year and you still were willing to sign off your rights. I am very much so in agreement that if Cora did suffer from depression or anxiety or whatever that required her to be hospitalized, I think with treatment, she could get past that as well. And so I do think that people that have a little bit more money than we have may be quick to put their kids into institutions, okay, to get help quickly because for several reasons. If you have somebody that's big, traveling, doing movies and, making women that are loose like TD Jakes, you don't have the people around to help care for somebody that is suffering from depression. So I do think that they would be quick to send their kids to be hospitalized because they're not around, right? So the fact that she was hospitalized to me isn't like a glowing, like, absolutely no, you can't adopt kids. But what I would want to know is, what is her state now? I want to know that. And I would also want to know, was the little boy impacted by Brandon? Okay. What is he saying? I want the child to get some counseling, and I want to make sure the child is not in harm's way. Now, if the child was harmed under Cora's care, even with the removal of Brandon, then I would think that that child does not need to be with the Jakeses. Now, I said what I said. I don't think a child, if you allow a child to be abused consistently, repetitively, that is somebody not watching. Okay. And I'm not saying that it's her fault, but when you have a child that you've adopted, you have to take care of that person and watch them very carefully, because they can definitely become another ward of the state because you've allowed the child to be harmed. Okay. So although it's not Cora's fault, I do think we need to figure out if the child was harmed. This whole story is screaming losing Isaiah to me. And, I do think that I feel for a mom that has lost her child and then got her life back together. But I also feel for a child, if they are in a stable home, in a good home, that he's been almost a decade of his life, to then be uprooted into a whole nother lifestyle with somebody he doesn't really know, around a family he doesn't really know, and who obviously wasn't supportive enough from the beginning so that they could step in and help raise this child whenever Michelle was going through her postpartum depression. This is the type of environment we're about to put this child in. I feel for him. I think that as a mother, I could not see myself. Nobody could convince me to sign my child's rights away. Now, I understand that in Michelle's situation, when you are when you're mentally unhealthy, you don't make really rational decisions. So I feel for her then. But again, adoption takes a really long time. And even after the adoption happened a year later, you didn't say anything until now. And so that's why I want, what is making you change your mind now? Now that this little boy knows right from wrong, knows the Jakeses as his family, and doesn't really know you because, by your own admission, you haven't seen him in 6 years, really. You missed 6 birthdays. So tell me, why would the child be given back to the mother with that? So I feel for the child, and hopefully some more will come out about this, and hopefully this going through the legal system will make the child get some counseling, make the law dig a little bit deeper into Cora's state and how stable she is, if that's in question, as well as this mother in terms of why she is looking now. Because I smell a lawsuit coming out of this if she gets custody back. She's going to say she was coerced into signing up her rights. It's going to be a lawsuit, and hoping that this is not financially motivated. But I'm sorry, it's smelling like a duck and walking like a duck to me. What is your motivation now?
I feel the same way about trying to understand the motivation. It does seem very suspicious. However, I can't, and this is by no means to try to make fun of Cora, but I can't help but see the fact that she exudes immaturity on her social media pages. It's very, and I'm not saying that she shouldn't be a mother by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very I think I text you this, Nicole, and if I didn't, I apologize because I texted to somebody, right? And I was like, when you watch these videos about her, daily check-in with her motivation and she does this little song with the water about how you should drink your water. And it's like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a good situation either way. It doesn't seem like the best thing for Jason is to be with Michelle or to be with Cora, honestly. And that's the sad part, because we're going to uproot this child's life at 8 or 9. why? Like, why did all of this even happen? I mean, it's it's really disturbing. And then, can we be concerned about the older daughter? Like, is she okay? Has she been affected? Is anyone concerned about her? We don't know where her mother is, or, I mean, they might, but we don't. The general public doesn't know. Are we not concerned about her? Because if you look at the most recent pictures of both baby Jason, who is not technically a baby anymore, and the older daughter, they don't look like happy kids. Now, it could be that, like, age where, you're too cool for your parents. I get that. But what it seems like is maybe we should do a little bit more digging, especially when it says when the charges that were brought against her husband were continuous charges. It specifically has the word continuous before the charge. So I would say that someone needs to get into that household and figure out what's best for both of those children.
So do you have the charges that that Brandon has against him?
Continuous sexual assault of young child or children with bond $150,000.
And we don't know if that's, he got involved in somebody at 17 or if it's one of the two children in his house. We don't have that information.
We don't.
Okay. So I'll say this. In terms of Cora and the maturity of her, I think that you have to realize that she's an entertainer. She is very much so an entertainer, and she's a youth pastor. So I give her a pass for some of the childlike things that she does. And I say that because from a pastoral position, she's an extremely powerful preacher. I can't belittle that. And I also say we don't know these people. We only know what we see. And so we can't really judge Michelle. The only thing we know is her social media, right? That's all we know is her social media and her side of the story. Okay. And the questions we get just from her side of the story. The only thing we know about Cora is the stuff we see on social media. We don't know her. We don't know anybody that does know her personally. So we can't jump to conclusions and say either one of them are unfit, or either one of them are dealing with mental anguish, or either one of them has done anything that will cause them not to be good mothers. All I know is that this little boy's world is about to go through a whole bunch of legal stuff again. If she just didn't lose, it sounds like Michelle must have just lost the battle. But that's a lot on a child, having to go through the legal system. I'm sure they had to get, what do you call those in the court? Like a guardian of the court to talk to this child and probably the other child involved. That's a lot for children to go through. So I hope that whatever is in the best interest of that child is what comes out. But I also hope that we figure out what is going on with Brandon and if he did anything to these children. And you're right, these children do look like, to me, typical kids that are annoyed. Like when I asked my 11-year-old nephew to take a picture, he is not smiling. He's like, oh, I have to take a picture. I don't really want to show my teeth. I mean, so to me, when I was looking at the pictures, I was like, these kids just don't want to act right. They just don't want to act right. But that's what kids that are, that age, preteen do. So I wasn't as bothered by that. But, who knows? Who knows what that means? Maybe they are unhappy. I don't know. I think there needs to be some more digging. And if in fact you think that the system is rigged or like her lawyers paid off the judge for some, of some sort, then you need to lawyer up as well. And I know that that's easier said than done, but a GoFundMe, I smell all these people that saying that they are I'm with Michelle, hashtag I'm with Michelle. Donate to her. Help her hire a good legal defense attorney. Not defense, I guess. Custody attorney. That's what would be more appropriate. Help her hire somebody. Because you're right, when you are going against big bad lawyers and then you are somebody that can't even communicate on social media what you really mean. And I say that because on one end, she says her lawyer was paid off. On the next end, she says she represented herself. Which is it? Okay. And so you can't clarify things yourself to your own followers and your own people have questions, then you need to lawyer up so that somebody can do the talking for you. Okay? And so a GoFundMe I smell to try to get these dollars up to hire somebody that can fight legally for your rights and for your custody of your child. If it's that important, put it out there. All these people that want to help, what can I do to help? Send me some money. GoFundMe, legal defense, legal custody fund. Okay? Let's go there.
It does sound like losing, Isaiah, but it's just, I feel like there's no winning in this situation. I feel like this is a classic case of people failing the kids again.
Well, let's start with failing our children from the beginning. Okay? We have to put our big girl draws on and realize our own mistakes here. And I'm not saying that people are not allowed grace, but you can't sit there and say, none of this is my fault. I was tricked. Okay, you can't say that. You have to own some of your own stuff. Okay? Your family who didn't step up to support you at that time when you needed them, they have to own their part in this as well. So we have to step up and own our own stuff. And when we prepare for children, when we take steps to make sure we're in a good place to care for them, that's when the children win. And I'm not saying that, pregnancies that are unplanned are like bad, I'm not saying that. But once you know you're pregnant, you get in that mindset and you say, I'm going to be a mom. I need to prepare for this child, and not even financially, mentally prepare for this child. And that's when you draw in family to help support you so that you are going through postpartum depression or anxiety. Some people think they're going through postpartum depression when they're overwhelmed, right? So this is going to be her fourth child. She's a mom of 5. She said she was young. Being young with 1 or 2 children can stress you out, can overwhelm you. And she already said that she was suffering and about to be homeless. Okay. Is it that you have postpartum depression diagnosed, or did you feel overwhelmed and like, I can't take care of this child? And because of that, you felt some kind of way. There's a difference between that. Okay. People say I had postpartum. Did you have postpartum? Really? Or did you feel like, I can't afford all these children. I'm overwhelmed because I have all these children. There is a difference, okay? Which is why if you really had severe depression and you felt like you weren't fit enough, what happened to the other 3 children? What happened to them? That's what I want to know. What happened to them during that time? Who diagnosed you with postpartum depression? Who did that? And were you officially diagnosed? And did you get treatment? How were you treated? So there's so many unanswered questions, but you're right, Janine. It's the child that ends up losing in this situation. Even if the child ends up staying in the same home, they've just gone through all of this psychological thing, custody battle here, custody battle there. That affects the child. And it does shine some light on the Jakes family, which you think is perfect, ain't kind of so perfect, but we knew that. They have a history of being imperfect. And if you listen to them, they will tell you how imperfect they are, even though on the outside right now, they look very much so branded and perfect. So Janine, are you ready to talk through some letters from our listeners?
Let's do it.
All right. So this letter reads, ladies, I'm living a life of misery in silence. My husband and I have been married for 8 years. We have a 6-year-old daughter. My parents have been together now for 42 years. My brother is happily married with a successful career as a financial advisor. I have a professional dating and marriage counseling business that I started 10 years ago. I paint this picture because marriage and relationships are a big part of my world, and I want to be a happily married example for other educated professional women. But the truth is, I despise my husband. My business brings in all the money to pay our bills and provide for our family. He calls himself an entrepreneur, but he spends more money than he makes. We haven't had intercourse in years, and our daughter isn't biologically mine. My husband had an affair. I didn't find out about it until his mistress died in a car accident, had an emergency C-section, saving the newborn baby. My husband got a call the next day. 2 days later, we brought home his 3-day-old baby. He begged for forgiveness. Since his mistress was now gone, I believed he would dedicate his life to our marriage and his daughter. So I stayed. 3 months later, I legally adopted our daughter. To this day, my family thinks we used a surrogate, and I waited to tell them until she was born because I didn't want to get our hopes up in case something happened. For reference, I had 2 miscarriages early in our marriage at 14 and 22 weeks respectively. So this was understandable for my family. Now my husband is living his best life on my dime, not being intimate, hanging out with his friends while I'm working and taking care of his child. I feel like I should ask for a divorce, but where does that leave our child? I love her and don't want to lose her, but he's biologically his, and this will come out in court. I don't want to disappoint my family, and I don't want to tarnish the reputation of my business. Should I just stay and do my own thing? How should I navigate this situation? Any advice would help. Signed, a miserable listener named Avery.
I say you keep the kid and let the husband go, because he don't seem to be worth 2 pennies rubbed together, to be very honest with you. It's just again, a very negative situation all the way around. The way that you found out, let's go back before the way you found out. The fact that your husband had an affair and he was so sloppy with the affair that he got the woman pregnant. And then she dies in a car accident and he gets a phone call saying, here's your kid. And you kind of just have a ready-made family. Voila. Girl, you're better than me, because I would have let him go the moment that I heard the phone call with the kid. He and the kid could have gone on about the business. But now you're dealing with it because your family thinks that you hid something so significant from them. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And then we're not sure. I don't know. It didn't say that she's infertile, but obviously you've been having a difficult time conceiving. Maybe that was God's way of saying to you that you don't need to have kids with this man, because he don't want to work and he want to be out here slinging and danging all over the place without protection. Please let him go. You can keep this kid because you've adopted the child. Keep the child. This is now your child. But this man who does not want to work, I think we've talked about this before, Nicole. Janine is a firm believer. If a man don't work, he don't eat. And what you're not about to do is sit here and bring me a child that I'm about to have to spend a few $100,000 on raising over its lifetime if it gets out of my house at 18. And then you want to be one too? You don't want to contribute. And not only do you not want to contribute, you want to call yourself an entrepreneur. So it's going to hide the fact that you're not bringing in any money. Here's the thing. You can be an entrepreneur all you want, but you can't be an entrepreneur if the bills aren't paid. That's not how this works. It's not for you to be an entrepreneur and mooch off of your wife. That is not how this works. So what you're going to do is you can do bad by yourself with your child, and you are going to let this man-child go. Because if he cannot afford his own lifestyle, then you don't need to be able to afford it either. That's what Janine has to say. I'm sorry this is happening to you. But there's a real easy solution. I don't know how much this man weighs, but you can make yourself 100 and some, 200 and some if he's big, 300 and some if he's real big, pounds lighter, and let this man go. Go on about his business. Thank you for the gift of this beautiful child, and let him go. What you saying, Nicole?
So she has 2 choices, right? She can either let him go or she can do her own thing. The problem with doing your own thing, okay, to keep up a show, is that eventually that show is going to run out, okay? It's going to get canceled. Something's going to give. You're going to do your own thing. You're going to fall in love with somebody else. And that man's going to be like, I want you to myself. Why are you even with him? Y'all not having sex anyway. Like, let's move on. And you're going to pull hey, I need to get a divorce. And your husband is going to be bitter and really try to act out. And then he's going to have a cause to do so, right? Infidelity is what he's going to claim. And then you're going to be paying him alimony. Now, I don't know what state you're in right now, but right now you can pull out and say, hey, he's the person that's cheating, and I have proof this is his child. Now, if you do that, you're going to have to fess up, okay? Because a lot of things can come out in mediation and in courts that you may not want to come out. For starters, you're going to have to sit down with your family and say, listen, I'm going to file for divorce. Let me tell you guys the truth. And you're going to have to own your stuff. And you have to say, this is really not my child. I adopted her. I love her like she's my child. And legally, I'm her mother. But she's not my child. This person cheated on me and had this child. I'm miserable. I'm asking for divorce. Then you're going to have to sit down with your husband and say, hey, I'm filing for divorce. We can walk away from this scot-free. I won't have to tarnish anything, your reputation. And let's agree that we will have shared custody, and let's go about our business amicably so that we can not drag our daughter through court. Okay. Now, if he gets bitter because his little check just walked out the door and he says no, then you're going to have to lawyer up. Okay. And regardless, this child needs to know about her real mother. So y'all gonna have to sit down and tell this child the truth. Children know. Okay? They know. Time out for lying. You're going to have to, if you're going to go through divorce, you're going to have to tell all the players the truth. Okay? Otherwise, he's going to be holding that over your head as ammo for him. You can't do that. You have to put it all out there and say, this is what it is. Now, a 6-year-old is not going to understand everything, okay? That's something you're going to have to explain again to her when she's older. But hopefully, your husband is not such a jerk that he wouldn't just agree, hey, you do you, I'm going to do me. You leave with your money, I'm going to leave with my money. We can split custody and go down, split custody down the middle. This is the arrangement we're going to have. We're going to equally contribute to this child. Or if you say, hey, she's going to stay with me the majority of the time. I don't need anything from you, and I'll give you visitation. That's fair too, if he's not really contributing. So I would sit down and literally have a conversation with him and say, what are we doing? We're not really having sex. We don't like each other. All we're doing together is raising this child, which I'm doing primarily by myself. I'm ready to get out of here. Let's talk about the arrangements for our child. And he's going to throw that. That's not your child. And you're going to say, legally, she's my child. So what are we going to do about our child? Because I will fight you for this child. And you know what? Likely she'll win, right? She's the person that's stable. She's the person that's been raising the child. She's the person with the job. She will likely win. So, hey, I say move on, but you're going to have to be honest about this thing. Now, if you decide to stay in it to keep up a charade, just realize, don't go having no fun on the side and then homeboy get lost in the sauce. And since you feeling neglected at home and now you're getting something on the side, now all of a sudden you want out, because I'm telling you, people get real mad when they may not be having sex with you, but let them find out that you're having relations with somebody else. All of a sudden, he's the victim. He's bitter and battered and victimized. Okay. So, and people, when they feel like they have been done wrong, even though they're the person that's been doing all the dirt all this time, all of a sudden they have grounds to walk all over you. And then, yeah, you'll get off the situation, but you'll be paying him a whole bunch of alimony so he can live comfortably, because you're the person that broke up the marriage. And his infidelity with the 6-year-old, unless you have proof of recent, doesn't count, because you forgave him and moved on. So let's think about that. Start collecting receipts if you're going to stay in it. Okay? If you're going to stay in it and do your thing on the side, that thing is real touchy. I wouldn't do that. But if you do, you have to realize that y'all going to have to come to agreement on an arrangement, because if he finds out, he's going to get vindictive.
Let me say this. I was with you when you said, at the beginning, I was like, Nicole, where are we going here? And then you said, when you said shared custody, then you got to, well, if I'm the one taking care of the kid, then I should have the majority custody and you can have visitation. That's how I'm feeling right now, because He's the one that got us into the situation. So you go along with my plans from now on. And then let me say this to you about your husband, right? I always am of the mindset, you got to pick a deficit. You can't have all the deficits at the same time. We can't not be sleeping together. You can't not be making any money and be out here cheating. You can't do that. You have to pick a deficit. Nobody is about to sit here and wait while you get your life together because you have too much life of getting together. You either are going to be a fake entrepreneur, not bringing any real money, or you are going to be out here unfaithful, or you are going to not be having sex with me. You can't do all of the above. You can't even do two of them and be okay with me. You pick one, and you better pick well, because if you veer off, I'm done. Ma'am, I don't remember what her name is, but cut your losses, be grateful for your daughter, and tell him sayonara, please.
All right, Janine, so what does your letter read?
My letter says, Nicole and Janine, I'm trying not to be hateful, but it's hard. My mother was diagnosed with MS in 2015. Things progressed quickly, and by 2020, my mother needed full-time at-home care. My aunt, who is a retired home health nurse, offered to take care of my mother free of charge since she was already collecting Social Security. I would give her a few dollars here and there as well, just as a thank you. She said that she wanted to take care of her sister and didn't want anyone else coming in exposing her to COVID. So my aunt moved in with my mother and took care of her until her last days. My mother passed away in January, and to my surprise, just last month, I found out that my aunt somehow got my mother's home when she passed. How is this even possible? Apparently, the care was not free. It was being charged to my mother's estate. She has it in quotation marks. And now my aunt owns my mother's home. So much for caring for her sister, I guess. Ladies, how can I forgive my aunt for what she has done and keep the family together? Signed, Veronica.
Let me get this straight. The aunt, who was her mom's sister, took care of her for 5 years. Okay. And the Veronica is the who sent the letter.
That's her daughter.
Did she live in the same house with her mother?
It doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't sound like it. Okay, so Veronica, here's some tough love, okay? One, it's your mother. So you should talk to your mother. She should have talked to her mother while her mother was alive about her wishes, okay? Because if the house was left to you, but your aunt was charging her estate, then you come back and say, no, I have documentation that says she wasn't charging us at all. So, or you could work out some other way to pay her if that were the case, if you didn't have the documentation, and not her take over the house. Now, if the aunt told your mom, hey, I need you to leave me the house, that's how you can repay me, and she got your mom to write off the house to her, okay, or put the house in her care afterwards, then that's up to your mom. Let me tell you, you have very little rights in this if you did not have a conversation with your mom, or you did not have this arrangement in writing. And if your aunt was charging it to the estate and documenting one thing, but telling you another, then legally, y'all are going to have to go through some legal action, right? She's going to have to sue you for the amount that she's charging the estate. Now, I would argue that if your mom's sister was taking care of her for 5 years, the least she needs is the house. She's taking care of your mom for 5 years. I mean, and I'm not sure what your mom's possessions were. I don't know how much your mom owns. I don't know what kind of debt your mom was in. I don't know if your mom had a will. But I would think the person that's been staying in her house for 5 years would get the house. Okay? I mean, she took care of your mom. She wiped and cleaned your mom. She cared and comforted your mom. She was your mom's little ride or die until the day she died. So for me, it's not unusual for someone like that to get the house. and perhaps the children to divide the life insurance policies or some other, estates. Okay. Because your aunts now live with your mom. That's her home. She's lived there for 5 years. So I would expect for her to have the house. And honestly, even if the house was left to me, if my aunt is living there for 5 years, I would tell her, you can have the home, or would make some type of arrangement for her to continue to stay in the home as a thank you for stepping up and taking care of my mother. Because guess what? It's really not your aunt's responsibility to take care of your mom. And guess what? Care, around the clock care, is not free. And unless you have something in writing that says, I'm not going to charge you anything, then your mom leaving your aunt the house is not surprising. I'm sorry, it's not surprising. And people get upset about this kind of thing. People that don't want to step up because it's an inconvenience to take care of their loved ones are then mad whenever stuff is left to the loved ones that took care of them. Why are you even surprised? Like, I don't even know why she's surprised. And you say, oh, well, she was charging my mom's estate. Really? I don't know how much the house was worth, but let me tell you, usually round the clock adult care, being a caregiver costs about $60,000 a year. So that's roughly $300,000, right? So if she was charging the house, the question is, what is the value of the home? Is it that the value of the home is like $2 million, and so she is overcharging for her services? She lives there. That's her home now. Of course your mom is going to who knows? Your mom could have said, hey, you've done so much for me. What I'm going to do, I'm going to say this is for taking care of me. But we don't know enough detail to know, hey, was your mom incapacitated for all these years and would have had a way to sign over anything? Would have had a way to sign anything that says, I'm going to give you this in exchange for taking care of me? We don't know. But it's not a shocker to me that the house is left to the aunt. And it's also not shocking that the children want to come and demand the home back. That's not surprising either. Because guess what? When people pass away, people are like, what you gonna give me? What you leaving me? I'm owed this. When really, don't nobody really owe you nothing, right? Because you didn't take care of your mom for those 5 years. Your aunt did. And I know that may be an unpopular opinion, but it's mine, and I'm going to stick to it. Thanks.
Look, I agree this is a tough love situation, right? So one of the things that and I'm going to take the journalistic liberty to assume that you are African American. And one of the things that we traditionally don't do well in our culture is preparing for what happens when we go on to be with Jesus. We don't have those tough conversations. People say, oh, I got it stashed away, or there's some paperwork over there. Or it's a this here. And oh, go talk to Sammy Sue over there. No, put it in writing and make sure that the people that you have in the will or you want to pass your stuff along to know exactly where everything is. And you don't want to make it more difficult for them in the time of tragedy. And unfortunately, this is what happened. Like, I don't know, and we could be wrong because you didn't provide that information in the letter, but I don't know that your mom had a will or that she didn't have a will or that she left it to your aunt or didn't leave it to your aunt. We don't really know. We just know based on what you're telling us, right? I mean, it sounds like your aunt might be the rightful owner of the home. And to be honest with you, I'm with Nicole. If someone took care of my mother for 5 years, I mean, the least that I could do is give her the house, right? But that's assuming that you have your own home, right? That's also assuming that the house is approximately worth what 5 years of home health care would be. And also assuming that she needs the house, right? Like, we don't know that your aunt doesn't have her own home, whatever it may be. There's a lot in this particular situation that you haven't shared with us. But it sounds like you might just need to think about this differently. It's not about forgiving your aunt, because I don't feel like your aunt did anything wrong. I mean, I don't really think there's a person to be forgiven here. I think that it's really about just coming to grips with what happened. Sorry, Veronica, but it just seems like your mom wanted your aunt to have the house.
Now, we'll say this. If it's your aunt, that means that your aunt and your mom are probably around the same age, right? She's retired. So I would have the conversation and say, thank you for taking care of mom. I know that you live here and she wants you to have a home, but let's talk about what happens when you pass away. Okay. That's a conversation. I know people don't like to bring that up. I brought that up literally 2 days ago to my own mama. We were in the car and I said, listen, I'm going to let you know that when you go to glory, I need the house. Right. And I say that because, and Janine knows this, I paid my mama's mortgage off. Right. So I've been the person that's been paying the house notes until I went ahead and did a bulk payment to pay it off. So I said, listen, I'm going to need the house. She said, no, I think it's already in, you're listed as a beneficiary. I said, that don't count. You need a will because if you pass away, I'm going to have to go through the court and pay money to get that house turned over to me. And I'm going to be the only person doing the upkeep, and my mama is pretty young and active, but stuff happens. Nobody knows the date or the place or the time. So we have to have these conversations to say who's supposed to have what. Now, obviously, I have a sister and I, would not stiff my own sister. But I say that because I'm the person in the family that would probably be doing legal stuff and probably be the person paying all the bills there if my mom happened to pass away prematurely. So I had to have that conversation to say, hey, let's talk about you getting a will. Okay. Who gets what, so we know who has a responsibility to pay these property taxes before what can the state do? Take your stuff back. House paid off. Nobody's paying the property taxes because nobody's getting the bills. And guess what? 2 years later, nobody has a house. The house now belongs to the state again. That's how they get us. Okay. So we have to have these conversations. So she would need to have a conversation with her aunt and say, listen, my mom poured her heart and soul into that house. I understand that it's your home right now. Whatever you choose to do with it, I get it. But if you decide to sell the house, please sell it to me first. Okay. And if you decide to keep the home, can we talk about that home being passed down to either me or my children? Because I think my mom would have really wanted to leave that legacy to her children's children. I would have that conversation and see if you can come to some agreement on that. But right now, yeah, your aunt, she's done the work. She's done the heavy lifting.
I would agree. And be grateful. Be grateful that there was somebody to take care of your mom that was willing and able to take care of your mom so that she didn't have to be in a facility during a pandemic. I mean, just think about it. Like, it's so much easier, and you probably had more time with your mother because your aunt stepped up to the plate and decided to take care of her. And it was something that you didn't have to be worried or concerned about. So think about all of that. Think about all the time that you had with your mother, and think about, honestly, it's a house. Is it worth it? Is it worth falling out with your aunt over? The person that took care of your mom until she went on to glory, as Nicole put it. Is it worth it? Maybe I think you should just let this one go. I really do.
All right, Janine. So what did you learn new this week?
Okay, so I had searched and searched to see how many illegal adoptions happen every year. And apparently that's not something that people keep track of. Go figure, right? So, but I was able to find out how many adoptions generally happen in the United States. So before I get to the adoption portion, there are approximately 400,000 children, and this is according to the census, in foster care every year. So whether they're in foster care for a short stint or they stay in foster care for, throughout the calendar year, there are about 400 children in the foster care system each year. There are only about 135,000 adoptions that take place each year. So while it may be surprising why people adopt illegally, let me tell you this. The average adoption across the United States costs about $40,000 plus for you to go through a legal adoption. So that's probably one, why the numbers of adoption are so low and kids stay in the foster system so long. And two, why people sometimes take the illegal route because it's just cheaper and honestly probably more convenient. Not suggesting that people adopt kids illegally, but this is probably why. What did you learn new this week, Nicole?
So what I learned was that previously it was thought that 9 to 30% of children are the genetic offspring of someone other than the guy who thinks he is the father, right? So meaning up to a third of us don't really know who our real daddies are, okay? And these numbers have been perpetuated study after study after study. However, Rob Brooks, who did an Australian research study, showed that the number, if you do a cross-section of a representative population, it's only actually 1 to 3% who don't know who the real father is. And you may wonder, well, how do they get 9 to 30% and he's getting 1 to 3%? Well, he explains. It's because they were only looking at the centers that were for paternity testing. So, of course, if you don't know who the father of the baby is, and you take your kid and say, here, swab the cheek of this guy, and this guy, okay, and swab little Timmy's cheek, of course, there's going to be, a third of people who don't really know who the father is, or who thought this was the father, and then come to find out somebody else is really the father. Okay, so that's how we're skewing these numbers and making mothers look worse than they really are. Okay, when that's not really the truth. So what they did was they went and had people sign up. Hey, can you volunteer to take a paternity test? Can you allow your child to get tested? So that they have a bigger sample size to draw from. And so that's how data gets skewed and numbers get just repeated and repeated and repeated, making us all look bad. Only 1 to 3%.
Well, I'm glad it's only 1 to 3% because I was nervous for a second. Like, what are we out here doing? But, as we said, things not always how they appear to be.
Mm-mm. Now, what will be interesting, which I don't know, is if we look at just U.S. data and break it down by regions of the country and ethnicity, I bet we would have some differences in different areas and between ethnicities. Just saying.
Yeah, I think we should leave that as one big giant group of people right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes us all look better.
All right. So are you ready for the motivational moment?
Let's do it.
Okay. This one comes from Jennifer H., who is an author. And it says, the story of my family changes with the teller. Ooh, that's powerful. Let it sink in for a second. The story of my family changes with the teller. Now, a lot of us probably think this about our own families. On the outside, we look like Instagram family of the year. But on the inside, we know the struggles. We live in check to check and dealing with family secrets. No, family isn't usually picture perfect, but they are yours. Make sure to cope with your family secrets so that you can build a stronger family unit for your family's next generation. Until we meet again.
Pray, work, slay.
And show off your melanated excellence.
Bye!
Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversations is produced by Nicole Lee Plenty and Janine Brunson Johnson. Executive producer, Ken Johnson. Get the Oh, That's Deep, Black Women Conversation podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, or where you get your podcasts. Please subscribe and rate us. You can follow Oh That's Deep Black Women Conversations on IG at Oh That's Deep BWC. Oh That's Deep Black Women Conversations is a Mean Old Lion Media production.